Licorice pizza, a term for vinyl 12-inch long playing or LP record, named because it is black and about the same size as a pizza. And welcome to episode 20. Hard to believe. Episode 20. I'm thinking episode 20, we might as well. What band? It's got to be a real special band. But first, keep you in suspense. Like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget the Licorice Pizza t-shirts, beautiful t-shirts for sale. You're going to see them like this way over the screen or somewhere in here. You'll see those. Okay, what band am I going to talk about today? You might have heard of them. Van Halen. Van Halen, the legendary Van Halen. Can't say enough about this group. Eddie Van Halen, Mike Anthony, Alex Van Halen, and the wild man himself, the stage performer, David Lee Roth. Anyway, we're going to go back to 1978. I'm working at a radio station, and they would give you promotional copies of the albums. A lot of these folks I would listen to, and it's back into, chapter 12. Just throw them in the file. It's okay, but, we got tons of them. Singles, albums. This particular album, I just pulled out, put it on, and what do I hear? Eruption? Eddie Van Halen's guitar playing. Never heard anything like that. It's called tapping, all that tapping. It's a lot of players do it now, but back then, this was totally new. And they go into the Kink song, You Really Got Me. And I just listened to it. I said, I got to listen to the second song. So I listened to the second song. That's great. That whole album's good. I'll never forget I said, this band is going huge. Yeah, huge. And they did. They went really huge. Iconic. Van Halen. That first thing in the guitar, Eruption, just before You Really Got Me. Da 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 da. Bang. And they just nailed it. I tell you, so that's my intro to Van Halen. I get baptized into Van Halen. That was the album, that first album. Next one, Van Halen 2, another great album that went big too. Women and Children First. That also was a fantastic album, 1980. And David Lee Roth, still in the band. And Fair Warning from 1981. I do like this album. Not one of my favorite Van Halen albums, but a good album. Diver Down from 82. Good. I can't say it's a bad album. It's a good album because they had so many great albums, but I'll rate that good. 1984, they just, what can you say? Jump is off the album 1984. Van Halen. Jump, Hot for Teacher. That was a huge monster hit. MTV played that nonstop. And Panama. David Lee Roth is kind of going there, up in the air there, and he's floating across the stage on some contraption. But anyway, that's 1984. I'll get back to some of the tunes off from their debut album, Running with the Devil. That's a great song by Van Halen. And, Eruption, of course, right before You Really Got Me. Ain't Talking About Love, another stellar song off that album. I'm the One. Jamie's Crying, another classic song off that particular album. Atomic Punk, Feel Your Love Tonight. Ice Cream Man starts out with that nice acoustic guitar, then they just killer song, blues tune. Ice Cream Man off from that debut album by Van Halen. All right, we are going to go on to the Van Halen number 2. Yeah, they got, look at this. Dance the Night Away. That is a cover song that they did. Dance the Night Away. You're No Good. Yeah, that's the Linda Ronstadt, No Good. They had a different take on it, different arrangement on that particular song. You're No Good. Bottoms Up, another great tune off Spanish Fly. Eddie starts, he shows you his acoustic skills, classical. guitar skills on that one. Women in Love, another one, DOA. Beautiful Girls, one of the more popular songs off this particular album. But yeah, they're well on their way. Van Halen, man, that kind of follows the pattern of the first album. I thought they both sound alike, different songs, of course. Well, they Women and Children First. They released that album. That's also a very strong album by Van Halen. Love that one too. And like I said before, well on their way. You know, they're becoming superstars actually. And then 1981, Diver Down. That's the album. A lot of Van Halen fans, that's not one of their favorite albums. I do like it. It's well, Hang 'em High. That's a great song off that. Also Intruder, The Full Bug, Happy Trails. That's an old Western song, Happy Trails, da, da, and they did that one. Oh Pretty Woman, you know, the album of remakes. Oh Pretty Woman's off that. By Roy Orbison, same song, but a lot heavier when Van Halen does it, right? So yeah, but that overall is a great album. And a lot of people say, leave the originals alone, but I thought Van Halen did a great job in on that song, "Oh Pretty Woman" and "Happy Trails." "Happy Trails" is kind of the guys just goofing around in the studio, but they came out with that album back in 1981. And remember the first time I heard "Oh Pretty Woman," I said, "My God, that's a Roy Orbison song," but this is much heavier, much heavier. And then we get to 1984, Van Halen. They're on MTV, just on radio, FM radio. They're on MTV, AM, FM radio back in those days. Yeah, they're all over the place. And you know, Hot for Teacher and Panama, another classic song, 3 classics off that, and Jump. And then, of course, the title track, 1984, off that album, and Girls Gone Bad. Yeah, Van Halen, 1984, that could sold a gazillion copies. And we'll stop right here, and we're going to have a new segment on Licorice Pizza called No Skips. And with that, here's Elijah.
Welcome to No Skips. This is the show inside the show. That's right. We are a segment of Licorice Pizza. No Skips. We're talking about albums, individual albums that you don't skip any songs on. And today, the album that I have for you is from a band called Skillet, one of my favorites. This album called Collide. Now, the original version of this album came out in 2003, but it was so popular that they actually re-released it in 2004 with an additional song. It was one of those rare moments in time where you actually went and got that special edition CD for just the extra song, because that extra song was that good. The extra song I'm referring to is called Open Wounds. It is one of my favorite tracks. It kind of talks about like the people who are supposed to love you in life who don't, and all they leave you with is open wounds. And I thought that song was very meaningful to me, especially when I was, growing up. Another song on the record is Savior. It's like one of the biggest songs that Skillet has ever had in their career. And this was at a time where Skillet was trying to figure out what their identity was. Skillet started in the, I want to say, mid to early 90s. When they first came out, they were wrapped up in the grunge scene, kind of like Nirvana, trying to figure out their identity. Then they kind of got into more keyboard rock, which was kind of interesting. Now they get into hard rock, the early 2000s, aggressive hard rock where the guitars sound dirty, the drums are aggressive, and the singers are as well. I think as far as a vocal performance is concerned, John Cooper, the lead singer of Skillet, does an amazing job in this record. He doesn't scream a ton, but when he does, it's meaningful. It adds something to the song. It's not just a bunch of screaming, just a scream. Lori Peters is the drummer for Skillet. She does a great job. Corey Cooper, John's wife, is actually the keyboard player for the band. She also plays, I believe, guitar as well. And then you have Ben Cassica, who plays lead guitar on the record. All four of them make up Skillet, at least as it was back in 2003. If you're looking at, newer stuff by them, John and Corey have stayed on, but the people around them have changed. But to go back to this record again, to me, it is an amazing record, top down. There's only one song on it that's slow. Everything else is upbeat, aggressive, in your face. So if you are that type of rock and roll fan, you're going to love this thing. They are a Christian band. They're a faith-based band, so you will see elements of that, but they don't just come right out and try to hit you over the head with the Bible. That's not what they're trying to do on this CD. But again, Collide, again, it came out in 2003, special edition in 2004. One of my favorites. And just to highlight a couple of songs, obviously Open Wounds, we already talked about that one. Savior, you also have A Little More. That is the one slow song on this record, but basically it talks about if we just had a little bit more love in the world, how much better would we all be? And it's a really, really great tune, kind of that acoustic rock that the early 2000s were famous for. Some of the other ones that I love that are definitely upbeat, you have Imperfection, which is a great one. You also have Forsaken, which is another great one. But again, 11 songs on the special edition, and I would encourage you to get that special edition because you don't want to miss out on Open Wounds, the song. But again, the album Collide, the band Skillet, it is a no skips album. Listen to it. Tell me if you skipped any songs. Let me know down in the comments below. Right now, though, we got to toss it back to the great one, Mr. Don Despaw.
And I hope you like that new segment on Licorice Pizza, no skips. That's a great concept too. Some albums you all the way through, and some 2 or 3 good songs maybe. So I hope you enjoyed that segment, new segment here on Licorice Pizza. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. By golly, and those t-shirts look great too. Different sizes, small, medium, large, 2X, 3X, 4X, whatever. Really great looking t-shirts. And now we get Van Halen, the drama period. Where there was drama before in this band, but oh boy, after 1984 came out, David Lee Roth, he left. So 85, they didn't release anything in 85, and then what do they come out with? They come out with 5150 with Mr. Sammy Hagar. You hear more arguments with Van Halen fans. Well, I like David Lee Roth. No, I don't like him. I like Sammy Hagar. Got to remember, there's 2 different time periods. If you go back to 78, then 86, David Lee Roth, crowds change. So the kids remember David Lee Roth back in the day, and they're David Lee Roth all the way. I remember David Lee Roth, but I also loved Sammy Hagar. Different sound. Van Halen sound did change back in 86. More keyboard flavored music with a lot more keyboard in it. Back in the day, David Lee Roth, Jump had from 84, they had keyboard. They were changing their sound at that time, but not so much just all guitars, bass and drums, you might say. So, but that album, 5150, great album, Sammy Hagar. It's just their sound had changed, Van Halen. So, and then you get a lot of people that love Van Halen sound with Sammy Hagar. I'm one of them. I don't know if I can pick 2 entirely different singers. David Lee Roth, more of wild on stage. Sammy's wild on stage, not as much, but totally apples and oranges. That's what it is. And but 5150, great album by Van Halen. And then they came out with Oh You Wait 1 2. That album, more poppy album, more pop orientated album. I wore that out on cassette. I just had the cassette and played it until the cassette got so thin. Could play it. I do enjoy that Cobble Wobble, great song off that album. Sucker in a 3-piece suit. I think that's the other one off. That's off that one. and a great album. Finish What You Started, another great, very popular song off that album. And they're still on top, Van Halen, at that time. So great album. But if we come down to my least favorite album by Van Halen, and I'm not saying it isn't good, but it's, of all of them, probably Diver Down. Yeah, that one. And my favorite will always be their debut, 1978. The world was introduced to Van Halen. It didn't take long. Eruption, yeah, they erupted after that album for sure. And they're very influential. Eddie Van Halen, the late great Eddie Van Halen, influenced so many guitar players. Amazing guitar player, and the drummer's great too. Alex, of course, Mike Anthony, and just great musicians. Great band live. Never saw them live. I wish I could have. Kind of late now, but Eddie's son Wolfgang too played on some of the Van Halen stuff live and an album, and he's a great guitar player in his own right. We're on Carnal Knowledge, yeah, that came, was it 19? I'm gonna say 1990. That was a great album. Oh, I forgot about that one. That's also Pound Cakes off that one. Another great song. Van Halen, what a career. Balance, that's a good album, 1995. Very good. And A Different Kind of Truth came out in 2012. It's an amazing band. I know Eddie's gone, but we still have his great guitar playing and music that will live on, of course. And again, that is it for another episode of Licorice Pizza. Van Halen. If anything I missed on the program, you can fill me in on. Don't forget to comment about it, and like and subscribe. Peace out.